Hello everyone, my name is Fatima and welcome back to the Race Edit. And if you're new here, welcome to the Race Edit and welcome to a new video, welcome to a new episode, wherever you're watching this from. Welcome to the Race Edit. You know what, you guys, I'm just gonna get right into it because a lot has happened over the past few days in the world of Formula One, and oh my gosh, it's all built up. If I'm gonna be honest, it's all built up. As you know, we had F175 live earlier on last week and it was insane. It was a red carpet, there was glitz, there were glamour, all for the teams to just show us what color their car is gonna be, and all for pretty much all the teams to just stick with the same livery that they did the year before, the year prior to that. But we all know the livery launch is a big deal because it's what starts off the new season. Of course, this was different because they've never done it to this scale before, where they had all 10 teams go to the O2 of all places. They had musical guests perform of all things, just so we could start off and kick off the season. There was a lot of controversy around this. There was, and I'm going to get into that. I'm going to get into the F175 Live. I'm going to get into boogate. I'm going to get into what my favorite liveries for the 2025 season are. But there was just so much that happened, and we need to unpack it all right now. Now, let's rewind to when Formula One first announced that they were going to do F175 Live. This was a interesting thing because, as we know, they've never really done it like this. For the past however many years, teams just did their own little launches and we keep it pushing. Why did Formula One choose to do a big scale launch like this? I think it's for a multitude of reasons. I think they knew the gold mine they had in their hands. One, not to go back to Lewis Hamilton, but I always end up going back to Lewis Hamilton. But if we're going to be honest, when it was announced that Lewis Hamilton was going to be leaving Mercedes to go to Ferrari, it was breaking news. It broke the news. I've said this so many times. There are so many people who don't even watch Formula One who knew how big of a deal this would be. This is the greatest driver of all time going to the best team in Formula One. It was a link up that was groundbreaking. And because of that, it would be really silly for Formula One to not capitalize on something as groundbreaking as that. Now, Ferrari has been handling Lewis Hamilton's move to their team in such a wonderful way. Their marketing team needs to do a masterclass because what they're doing is just chef's kiss. But what Formula One chose to do is, instead of letting Ferrari do their own big car launch, they said, we're going to bring all the teams together and do a big collective car livery launch where everyone can see all the cars, all the liveries for the first time together at the same day. Why did they do this? Because everyone was waiting for the day we saw Lewis Hamilton in Ferrari Red launching the new car. And Formula One capitalized on that, and it only makes sense. Do you know how much money they made to have an event like this at the O2? And I was thinking this in my head. I was like, they're so lucky that Ferrari finished second in the Constructors' Championship last year, because it brought up the anticipation with how they built it. They did all 10 teams from last to first, and it worked out that Ferrari just happened to finish second in the standings. I'm sure if they finished dead last in the standings, they would have done it the other way, but we got lucky. And that's what built the anticipation. We heard the cheers when Team Red came out. We heard how loud the cheers were for Lewis Hamilton in red with Fred, with Charles, with that new gorgeous Ferrari car. And I can't even be mad at Formula One for wanting to host an event like this when they knew it was a gold mine. I really can't. Now, I can understand where people could be annoyed by the spectacle because it's a lot. I even have a lot to say sometimes when it comes to the spectacle of the sport, but then I have to remind myself that, hey, this sport is about the glitz and the glamour. That's how they market themselves. It is how they market themselves. The only way you can really race in this sport is by having money. It's very rare nowadays, like in this 2025, for a person who comes from an underprivileged background. You can even be from a middle class background to race in this sport. It's all about the money. That is part of the sport. The sport values the spectacle. They've always valued the spectacle. It's just now that they're doing it on a bigger, larger scale, it's really heightened. And we can see it, that it's really heightened. And that's where a lot of the controversy comes from. I can understand why drivers would feel uncomfortable about this because, girl, they just signed up to race. They said, I want to race my cars and I want to be the WDC. I don't need all of this. I can understand that. But with the way the sport has been growing in popularity over the past few years, they need to make money. The sport needs to make money, and they need to bring in more money, and that's just it. Now, this is not something new. While yes, hosting a livery launch at the O2 is something new on a very large scale, this whole idea of doing this stuff is not something new. I mean, let's go back to when McLaren did their livery launch and they had the Spice Girls. Lewis Hamilton was dangling from the sky like that one SpongeBob meme. Let's be so for real. Like, spectacle is nothing new in the sport. It's just really heightened, and it's available to the masses. And I think that's where I hate to say purists, but that's where a lot of purists are not happy, because this is their little niche, this is their little sport, and now this little thing that they love, which I understand, is available to the masses, and it feels like it takes away from what they came here for. Understandable. I get it. A creator made such a good point that I have to talk on it myself. Lizzie, she's on TikTok, she made such a wonderful point about how she would take the spectacle of things like F175 Live, things like the Miami Grand Prix, if it means that we can watch our sport without any ads, any commercial breaks, where we have access to so much Formula One history and content. You go on F1 TV, I can watch any race I want. Any race I want from goodness knows when. I have watched so many races from before I was even born. And yes, that does come at a price, but it also comes at all these ads and all these sponsors and all these marketing tools that Formula One is using and implementing to make sure that we have access to this. Also, we have a lot more access to these drivers or these players than a lot of other people have in their other sports that they watch. Like, we have a lot of access. A lot of access that I personally think we don't even really need, if I'm going to be honest. But Formula One gives us fans a lot of access to the sport, of inside access to the sport that other sports are just catching up to now, because they're seeing how much of a money and gold mine it is. At the end of the day, this sport is a business. Formula One is probably the biggest business that there could be. Let's be so for real. It's probably the biggest business that there could be. So while I understand the annoyance of the spectacle and how it doesn't feel like it's your Formula One, it is your Formula One. It's just your Formula One on a bigger, larger scale. And if you're not happy with the spectacle, ignore it and watch the races. Watch the races. People, that's my honest thought. That's my honest truth. I think when it comes to the sport, that we as fans actually come from a very privileged place when it comes to the sport. I think that we take it for granted a lot as well, because we're just so used to having so much open access and so much things catered to us as fans, which is crazy to say. I know, but we actually are. And I think that if you step out of the Formula One bubble, if you watch like other sports, this is nothing. The sports are not new to this. Sports have been going back and forth with their fans for years, and they will always go back and forth with their fans, because it's weird, because while we're privileged as fans, what we want and what we think is needed is also, sports is a business. Although there are problems with how a lot of things can and are handled. It is a business, and the problems that we're facing, we're not the only fans who are facing this problem. And at the end of the day, the business needs to make money. They do. That's why you'll see will.i.am at the Miami Grand Prix. That's why you'll see Shaq at Vegas. That's why you'll see all these celebrity guests. It's all about the promotion. I mean, look at Formula E. I think what they're doing is super cool with having these celebrities and these influencers do the racing thing that they're doing. It's to bring more eyes to their business so they can make more money to keep continuing on this business. And while a lot of the times we as fans might not agree with it, if we don't have this spectacle, we won't have the sport. There's a reason why Liberty Media brought Formula One, and there's a reason why they made Drive to Survive. There's a reason why the F1 movie's coming out. It's all a part of making sure that we get to see these cars that we love do what they do best, which is race. It is. And sometimes with that, there's things that we might not agree with, but we also have to recognize that without this, we don't get that. And it sucks, but it's just the truth. It's just the truth. It is. Now, I want to talk about boogate for a hot second, because boogate has got people going a little bit, it's got the FIA going a little bit, I don't even know where to start with boogate. So when we talk about boogate, there's a few things I want to talk about. First, I'm going to talk about Max, then I want to talk about Horner, then I want to talk about the FIA in that order. Because I think it's an interesting topic. I don't want to say I don't care because that sounds harsh, but I do think in the nature of sport, there is booing. If you don't like a driver, if you don't like an athlete who represents the opposite team, there is booing. It's just sport. And sure, it's not sportsmanlike, but this is not new. This is not just a Formula One thing. This happens in literally every single sport ever. Every single sport ever. Now, my issue with what's going on with boogate is how they're trying to flip it. Because, first and foremost, in 2021, what did Max Verstappen say? And I have it verbatim. He said, if there's a little booing, I guess just close your ears and don't listen to it. Now, he was saying this at a setting where it was at a high intense setting. It was at the Grand Prix, and him and Lewis Hamilton were in a very tight title battle. And this was going to be potentially Max's first championship. And Max is not one to mince his words. We know this. So this coming out of his mouth in 2021, I understand why he would say it in 2021 at that setting, and why they're upset that they're getting booed at in this 2025 at a setting that's not at a Grand Prix. It's not a race. It's a Formula One formal event. I can see why they're like, why are you booing me? But I think we need to look at the context and the history of it. This was back in 2021 when Max said this. In 2024, what did Max do consistently? It was slander British media. Consistently, he didn't do interviews with British media. They said British media was out to get them. It was a woe is me, British media, British media. There are, 4 British drivers? There were, in 2024, 4 British drivers, if I'm correct. You have Lando Norris, you have George Russell, you have Lewis Hamilton, and you also have Alex Albon. 4 British drivers. That's 4 drivers the UK fans can root for during any race. You are then going to the O2, to England, a country that you have been slandering consistently and saying that they're out to get you left, right, and center, sounding like Alonso back in 2007, and you're shocked that they're booing you, that the fans are booing you. You shouldn't be, because you have been slandering them, their drivers, their country, for the past year and a bit. You, your family, and your team. It's why there was booing. It is why there was booing. And sure, it's not sportsmanlike, but if you're not going to be sportsmanlike towards their drivers, they're not going to be sportsmanlike to you. If this was held in Max's home country, there would be booing, and he would understand why there's booing. It's because it was in a place where he's already been slandering and there was high tension that they feel the need to call it out. Now, it's just hypocritical, personally. Again, I understand the different locations, the different events, but make it make sense. Long story short, make it make sense. There's a reason why you were booed, and I don't like the fact that the narrative is flipping that it's Lewis Hamilton fans that were booing Max. Because again, this was in England at the O2 where there's 4, now 5 British drivers on the grid. They don't like you. You don't like them. That's it. We move on. Now, Christian Horner was booed as well. This is the Red Bull team principal. This is the Red Bull CEO. He was also booed. He was booed for a multitude of reasons. It's crazy because he was actually booed in his own home country. We know why he was booed. There's a reason why you were booed in your country. It was because of the things that come out of your mouth, the things that he says, and the scandal with him. He's a very decisive person. He's a person where you love him or you hate him. There's literally no in between. And right now, for that man, it's a you don't like him. You don't like him because of the decisions that he has made, but because of everything that has all the baggage that comes with Horner, of course you're going to be booed. Of course you're going to be booed. Now, when I go back to the reason why Red Bull and Max and Christian were booed and the reason why the drivers didn't have time on stage to do their questions, they chose that prior to the booing. They chose to not do the interviews prior to the booing on the stage. This was not done because Max was booed or because Horner was booed. This was done prior to. This is the Red Bull. This has been their way with British media for a while, and it came to head at the O2, and we saw it come to head at the O2, And because there was already booing prior, and because the drivers didn't come up on stage and do the whole interview thing, of course the narrative is the Red Bull drivers didn't do this thing because they were being booed earlier and they didn't want their drivers to feel uncomfortable or in an unsafe space. I get it. You want to protect your drivers, but this was already chosen prior to, so that's not what the narrative was. That's not what the narrative is. And that's just that on Red Bull. You were booed and it sucks, but you guys cannot, it's contradictory, it's hypocritical. You guys know what they know what they're doing. That's my issue. They always know what they're doing and they play it, and it's just, they play it in their hands. They played it in their hands so perfectly. Now, when I talk about the FIA, girl, I don't even know where to start with the FIA because the FIA is just a different ballgame in general. The FIA was booed because of the FIA's bad decisions with how they've been handling things that have been going on with the sport for the past few years. That is why they were booed. The FIA were booed because of what they have been doing when it comes to stewarding, when it comes to just Girl, your drivers don't even like you, the FIA. And like, it sucks to say, but your drivers don't even, like, they don't even like you. That's why you were booed. And the thing is, it's like, the decisions that the FIA are making, because remember, they're the governing body for not just Formula One, for a multitude of series. So the decisions that the FIA make, it does not just affect Formula One. It affects other series as well. Other series where, I mentioned this, other series where drivers don't get paid as much as Formula One drivers do. So if I am a driver for, let's say, Formula E, and I swear, I'm not getting paid as much as Lewis Hamilton, so now I have to pay this extreme fine because you don't like the way that the Formula One drivers are handling their business. You don't like the way that the Formula One drivers, grown drivers, are speaking like grown men do in high intense situations. The FIA was booed because right now they are at a place where fans do not like them, their drivers do not like them, people do not like MBS, they don't, and that's why they were booed. So when the FIA put out that statement, the FIA said, great rivalries throughout the history of motorsport have contributed to making it such an exciting experience for fans. But what underpins sport and at all levels is a culture of respect. As such, it was disappointing to hear the crowd's tribalist reaction. This is crazy. Reaction to FIA Formula One world champion Max Verstappen and his Red Bull team principal and CEO Christian Horner at the F1 launch. Max and Christian have both contributed greatly to the sport we love in the season ahead, which we should not lose sight of that. As part of the FIA's commitment to protect the integrity of the sport, we are leading a coalition tackling online abuse in a sport under the banner of our United Against Online Abuse campaign. We stand with all of our competitors, officials, volunteers, and fans to unite against this growing threat. We urge the sporting community to consider the impact of their actions both online and offline. Now, Max and Christian Horner, Red Bull, are the reigning champions of the WDC. Cool. They have been for the past, how many championships does that man have? 4 years. Cool. You know, you actually have to laugh. That's all I'm gonna say is you actually have to laugh. Anyway, long story short, boogate happened. People, it's mixed reactions. FIA, you were booed because nobody likes you, unfortunately. Christian Horner was booed because of everything that man has done. Max Verstappen was booed because he keeps slandering British media, and he was in England at the O2 when there's five British drivers that fans have to support, and he keeps slandering their home country. That's why the booing happened. And sure, it sucks, but this is sport. And maybe it is unsportsmanlike. Maybe it is. It probably is. But Formula One is not the first sport where booing happens. It's not the last sport where booing will happen. It will continuously happen. If you're going to put out this statement, the FIA, they need to put it out for every single time a driver is booed at every single country they go to. Seriously. Because if you don't, then you know that statement where you're coddling Max Verstappen and Christian Horner, we already know there's a bias. That shows your bias. They need to put that statement out. They need to put a statement out every single time a driver is booed, point blank, period. Simple as. Now, let's talk about my favorite liveries because, okay. I have 3 favorite liveries of 2025. And I'm just going to start with Haas because, you know, I just want to say I was right to always like Esteban Ocon. And I feel like I say this in like every video. That man, I just really like the red, white, and black of the Haas car. I think it's Gorgina. I think just everything about this livery is so nice. It's so sleek. It's one of my favorites. It's definitely one of my favorites. They really did that with this Haas car. It's just so, it's nice. It's sleek. You got two colors. I like the Haas team, y'all. I like the Haas team. Who would have thunk it? I'm kidding. No, but genuinely, Haas really moved me last year. And now that they have Esteban racing for them and Ollie Behrman racing for them, like, I got my eye on you, Haas. I got my eye on you. I do love the livery. It's so gorgeous. It's really nice. I do have to say, though, the second one that I love is RB. Oh my god. Visa Cash App RB, they ate with that. Oh, it's so gorgeous. Yeah, sorry, I'm looking at it and I'm just like, wow, this is a nice car. It's just really, I can't remember what their car last year looks like. Genuinely, I actually can't. Now that I think about it, let me see if I can find it. Oh yeah, no, the last year's car had way too much blue on it. This all white thing they got going, the all white that they have going on with the Red Bull on it is just so beautiful. It's honestly one of my favorite liveries of the season of 2025, and I'm obsessed with it. And then my final one that I want to talk about is Ferrari, because I love the Ferrari car. Oh my goodness, I'm obsessed. Ferrari ate with this car. And I want to talk about Ferrari's car, Ferrari's livery for a hot minute, because I have a hot take. I don't hate the HP. I don't hate the HP logo, I'm not going to lie. I'm not a hater of the HP logo. Listen, I understand the blue is in your face, but genuinely, you guys, the amount of times that it's like my brain just doesn't register it. I'm like, oh my god, cute race suit. I like it. I don't even register the blue until someone is in my ear like, that blue HP logo. And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, it's terrible. But I'm not going to lie, when I saw that car, I said, 8 down. Ferrari, you did that. That white and that with that dark red, it looks really nice, you guys. I like it a lot. You can't tell me otherwise. I'm sorry if you hate the blue HP logo. Pretend it's not there. That's what I do. It doesn't bother me. It actually doesn't bother me at all. At all. I'm sorry, it really does not bother me. I don't hate the car. I think it's gorgeous. To be honest, as long as the car is fast, I literally do not care about anything else. I just need the car to be fast, and I need my guy to win another championship with that car. Simple as. I don't care about anything else, but I think we're doing a little bit too much with this blue HP logo. I think we just need to tone it back down a bit. Like, guys, relax, yeah? Relax. But I'm obsessed with the Ferrari car. I love the shade of red they're using. I'm just, please be a fast car. And that's all I'm going to say. I have nothing else to say because I don't want to jinx anything. I don't. I'm just going to leave it at that, and we're going to keep it pushing. That is all I have for you all today. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. For my Canadian fans, for my Canadian Formula One fans, if you're in the GTA, if you're in Toronto, I want to say that I am hosting my very first event on April 26th, where I'm hosting Formula One fans in Toronto, because I just find that there's not enough F1 events for fans here in Canada, in Toronto specifically. So I decided to take matters into my own hand and host my very first event, where there's going to be food, there's going to be games, there's going to be prizes, there's going to be great conversation on Formula One. So if you do want to come to this event, please feel free to go to my Instagram, go to the link in my bio and get yourself a ticket. It is a free event. So I'd really love to see any Canadian Toronto Formula One fans there in April. And I really, really hope that you all enjoy the events. And I really hope that you all enjoyed this episode. And I will see you all in the next one. Thank you so much and have a wonderful, wonderful day.